Okay, this is Mrs. Lopez, and we are looking at the point of view independent work. And there's some excerpts from Save Me a Seat. And Save Me a Seat is written similar to Wonder, where different parts of the book describe the same time period, the same event, but it's from each of their point of view. And so we're going to look at it, and the first thing I want you to do is go through, read, and I want you to respond to each of the pages and then come back and check your work with what I have here on this video. Moving on to page 2. So down here, if we're looking at the topic of eating lunch at 11:30, so highlight what Ravi thinks, highlight what Joe thinks. So I pulled these up here. You could underline it if you were doing the paper copy. And Ravi thinks that lunch is too early, but Joe thinks that it might be early, but it can't come soon enough because he's starving. So, time of lunch, they each have a different opinion. Next thing, what does Ravi think of Dylan Samarine? And what does Joe think of Dylan Samarine? So right here, Ravi is saying that he's not worried. He thinks that right now he thinks that Dylan thinks he needs special help, but he's sure that he and Dylan are going to be friends because he's been smiling and winking at me all morning. Joe, on the other hand, talks about how Robert is another Dylan Samarine wannabe. The difference between him and Tom Jenkins is that Robert isn't mean when he's on his own, where Dylan Samarine must be mean when he's on his own. And then it's talking about this horrible nickname that Dylan Samarine has given him as well. So then down here, their point of view on what type of person is Dylan Samarine. Ravi thinks that he's going to be a great friend, and Joe thinks that he's a bully, and that he has little bully wannabes as his friends. Continuing on, thinking about each other. How do they think of each other? So as they're thinking about each other, Ravi looks at Joe, and he thinks that he's a big white kid with yellow hair and a wrinkled shirt, and then he doesn't seem very friendly, so he's looking at him, and he's like, ugh, he's just this guy. And Joe thinks that Ravi is a little weird-looking kid who has a funny-looking lunchbox, and so both of them are very unsure of how they feel about the other person. What about being friends with Dylan Samarine? So these were for the stars, and I actually went back. So right here, he's talking about how Dylan must have made a good joke. Everybody's slapping him on the back, treating him like he's a hero. And Ravi's just like, oh, I know what it feels like to be the hero. And so he can't wait to be friends and eat together so that he can be with that group. And then he has referenced this earlier, too, when he was talking about how he thought that Dylan was going to be a good friend for him. Joe, on the other hand, has said multiple times, he just makes a list of all of these horrible things that Dylan does. He compares him to a crocodile, and then he'll grab anything that's dumb enough to come close to him. That he put one of the little ketchup folders in a homework folder and pounded it to make sure that it would pop. I mean, that's just, that is downright mean. Also, that he's a klepto, which means that he steals stuff that he doesn't need. I mean, all of these are just horrible things about Dylan. And then also saying that he's mean, even if other people aren't around to see him be mean. And so he put all of that together. Ravi can't wait to be friends. So down here, what's his point of view? Ravi can't wait to be friends with Dylan. He wants to be with the cool kids, where Joe can't stay far enough away from Dylan. Dylan steals, is mean to kids, and gets other kids to be mean as well. So then we go down to some multiple choice. How does Joe's point of view most affect his choices in the lunchroom? So if we're looking at those, Joe is just trying to avoid getting Dylan's attention. So then read these lines from the excerpt. So if we look at these things and Ravi's point of view of something, and then Joe explaining what it actually means, the best theme here is don't judge a book by its cover. It might end badly for you, because Ravi's looking at Dylan and saying, oh, he's smiling and winking at me. And Joe is thinking to himself, he always winks and smiles when he's up to no good. So Dylan is not expressing kindness or meanness in the way that Ravi's expecting. But Ravi's judging him by just his outward appearance, and it's not going to work out. And then finally, end page, there's a big old 2-part question. Which word best describes how Joe feels towards Dylan? Comfortable, jealous, nervous, sympathetic. So this is Joe who knows Dylan, who's been telling us all these things. How does he feel? But then let's also look at the text evidence at the bottom before you make your choice. So as I'm looking at the text evidence, I'm looking and thinking, oh wait, hold on, right here, that's Ravi, that's not even Joe, and this has nothing to do with Dylan. But these two things are Joe actually thinking about Dylan, thinking about him being like a crocodile, and that he's mean when he's alone. So how does Joe feel about Dylan? It makes him nervous. He is nervous about what Dylan might do next.